Hey, my name is Wendy Bird, and I am mother of 5, Nana to 6 right now, and I'm a social impactor, and I love hiking, biking, dancing, anything in the water, and probably more than anything else, I'm purpose-driven, pro-humanity, and I'm a featured author for The Great Human Connection. Every study that has ever been done on addiction has found a core root, and that core root has been strong, positive relationships within an individual's life. When people have strong, positive relationships, they have been found to have greater longevity, lower stress, and less disease. That is huge information to have. There was a Harvard study that was done. They actually took half of their study group from the tenements of Boston, and the other half were Harvard graduates. They followed these individuals for over 40 years, for the entire span of their life. They're actually following their children and grandchildren to this day. So it is one of the longest studies done. And throughout that study, it didn't matter if the individual was raised in the Boston tenements or was a Harvard graduate. What they thought was that those people who were Harvard graduates and said, oh, I know I'm going to be happy because I'm going to have a successful life, I'm going to have a couple houses, I'm going to have complete wealth. All of those individuals later said, I'm happy because I have a strong, positive connection with my spouse, my partner, my kids. It was the relationship that drove happiness. So based on that study and based on my own personal experience, I can definitely see that when individuals have these strong, positive, connected relationships with each other or people that are of a significant value within their life, they will have less addiction, greater happiness, and longevity. And who doesn't want to live longer? I think the better question to ask here is, do we want to go back to the way things were? Because there's always disparate. There's always, this was good, but this was bad. And when we look at what our world was hit with, it was a global pandemic. And then boom, natural disasters, fires in Australia. And then boom, by the way, we're going to hit you with, it's a political year and we want you to vote for specific people. Oh, and P.S. on top of that pandemic, the economy's going to fail. Oh, all small businesses, they're not going to be allowed to function. And then you roll into the nonprofit sector, and all the nonprofits have no longer any donor base or a way to raise funds. And then you take away all of that mess and you have Black Lives Matter and the BLM movement, and you move away from that just a little bit and you look at the world as a whole. And what we're experiencing here in America during this pandemic is nothing compared to what's going on in developing countries, where they're on absolute lockdown. Kids under the age of 18 aren't allowed to leave their house and haven't left their house since March. Parents aren't allowed to shop at stores. They have to have a permit or they'll get arrested. They're not allowed to drive their vehicles or they'll get ticketed. I mean, it's on such a grander scale than anything we're experiencing here in America. So what does the new normal look like should actually be, what do we want it to look like? Personal adversity is something that has been a huge theme that has run throughout my entire life. And I'm not sure why. I would love to know that answer. I have, we can just do a little soundbite version. I've had 47 surgeries. I'm half titanium. Gotten hit by a car twice at the exact same location, exactly 5 years apart. I have a son who was given 90 days to live at the age of 12. I've battled cancer, parasites, divorce, just so many life transitions that I feel like would put an individual at rock bottom. And I've learned rock bottom has a basement, and you just keep going. And you either settle in on that basement and isolate, or you look for that tow rope that's gonna come over the line and you tie a knot and you hang on and you just keep climbing up the rope. There has been so many times in my life where I just want to throw in the towel. I think personal adversity is thrown at us to help us grow and become who we are meant to be. So I run Pearls with Purpose. I'm a certified gemologist, and the pearl is actually formed within the oyster when an irritant embeds itself in the muscle lining tissue. And what the oyster does is it secretes a natural substance called nacre. And this nacre is what actually creates the pearl to become this beautiful, lustrous, high quality gemstone. And nobody really sees the irritant that is deeply embedded 6, 9, 12 millimeters inside at the core of that gemstone. And that's who we all are individually as human beings. We can be irritants and we can be irritated, but what are we going to allow to coat and soothe us so that the beautifulness within us, the divinity within us, the gemstone within us can shine through and actually contribute and serve other individuals? Whenever I share stories of my son or stories of the battles and challenges I've had, there are individuals who just flock towards me and they say, wow, you know, I thought my life was hard, but yours sucks. I'm like, yeah, it kind of did. And you just, they have hope. And if we can instill hope in each other and the willingness to say, I can get up tomorrow. I can get through this. So probably about my 30th surgery, I had just finished having a hip debridement, and then it was wrong. Something went wrong, and I had recovered. I was back to cycling. I try to cycle 150 to 200 miles a week. I was training for Lodija, which is a 206-mile one-day race from Logan, Utah to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And it's a lottery thing. I had gotten in and I was so excited to ride Lodija. And I got hit by the car and my hip went bad, for lack of medical terminology, and I had to have another hip surgery. And I remember lamenting about this to my friend, and he said, go buy a new bike. And I was like, buy a new bike? Are you kidding? I'm gonna be PT. I probably won't be able to do Lodija. I'm gonna have laid up. I'm gonna, like all this woe is me type stuff, right? And he just said, go buy a new bike and put it at the foot of your bed. And every morning, the day after your surgery, when you get up, you look at your bike and you say, I'm gonna ride this bike in 12 weeks. And I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But I went and bought a new bike, so it wasn't that stupid. And I brought the bike home, I put it at the foot of my bed every morning for 12 weeks. And that 12-week marker was October 20th. And October 20th came, there's a little bit of snow on the ground, and it was like, okay, Wendy, it's do or die time. You're gonna get on that bike or you're gonna just treat this like any other day. And I got up and I hemmed and hawed throughout most of the day. And then I just got on the bike about 5 o'clock that night. I only rode a couple miles, but I rode my bike on the day I said I was gonna ride my bike. And that changed everything for me. My focus wasn't on, I just had surgery on my hip, this was my 31st surgery. My focus was, I'm riding a bike in 12 weeks. I did Lodija that year. I mean, it was great. Like, it's all about the mindset. Our mental attitude can either amplify our efforts and change who we are, or it can damn us and it can just make us just stuck. It can completely destroy everything about what we want. So our mental attitude will definitely be the pivoting move on how we endure our personal adversity. That's what I've chosen to do. 3 adjectives that explain my feelings toward humanity. Gosh, I want to say like empowerment, confidence, focus. I want to use all these words. I live by 3 words every year. Every year I get them tattooed on my wrist, and I live into those words throughout the year. But the reality is my 3 words are just love, love, and love. I always thought I had great compassion and love for humanity. And Lanny, who is our director in the Philippines, she is Filipina. She was raised in the squatters with 9 siblings, didn't see her first toothbrush or shampoo until she was, I think 18 or 19. And by then, she had lost almost all of her teeth, so she has bridges and dentures and things that she wears because she's toothless. And I found myself in India in 2010. We were opening another co-op, and the directors in India said, come prepared to train maybe 10 or 20 women, bring enough kits for that, and we'll just see who shows up. And on day 3, after the word had gotten around that we were there to do training, we had 183 leprosy-afflicted women show up at the community center that all wanted to learn a job skill and change their life. And it was myself and another trainer, and we had 10 kids. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how can we make this happen? And so I told Padma Venkatraman, at the time, she was vice president's daughter, and she was helping us spearhead this initiative. And I said, we can't train them. I said, we've got to just select 20 people. And she said, no, these women want to be trained, train them all. And my next course of action was, I've got to get Lanny over here to help me. I need help. And so I called Lanny in the Philippines and said, can you get on a flight tomorrow and come help us in India? And she's like, oh, sure, I will come. And so she came. And her flight was delayed. She had problems with her visa upon arrival. By the time we picked her up at the airport, it was 2 a.m. By the time we got back to our hostel, it was 5:30 in the morning. We had to get up at 8 a.m. in order to be out at the community center by 9 a.m. We had very limited interaction and exchange of information. All she knew was she was flying into India to help Wendy, her dear friend, her dear sister, this person who has stood by her and helped pull her from a squatter's village. All she knew was I needed help, and she was willing to drop everything and come. She was married at the time. She had, at the time, a 2-year-old son, and we walked out into this leprosy village, and she just immediately squatted down. And we have so many pictures from this training day where she's just sitting by these women, side by side, holding these leprosy hands and teaching and guiding these women on how to make jewelry. And we just sat there. We trained and trained and trained. We answered questions. We used translators. We walked with these women. We sat with these women. We cried with these women. We laughed with these women. And we sweat with these women. And we get done with the training, and the shuttle came to pick us up to take us back to our hostel. And Lanny and I just both kind of flattened out on our mats and we were just hot, sweaty, dirty messes. And Lanny turned to me. She said, Wendy, how long before I die from the leprosy? And I was like, what? She said, Wendy, how long do I have until I'll be dead? I want to call my husband and child and say goodbye. She had gone through that entire day thinking it was her death. And she had still done it. She'd served complete strangers. In her mind going, when this is over, I will have a disease that there is no cure for it. I will die. And she had done it willingly, not ever stopping and saying, ooh, they don't have hands, they don't have fingers, they're deformed. What if I get this? She didn't bat an eyelash. So in 2010, I firsthand learned the real meaning of unconditional love and how it changes a person's life. And I think it can change the world. And so love, love, love would be the 3 adjectives.